Theme song not working? Why aren't we getting a theme song here? Ah, there we go.
I found no guilt till I was caught.
Alrighty. Alrighty, everyone, and welcome to the Adorkable Anarchist World. Was kind of in the mood to play a different song off that album for a theme for a change. Figure why not? I mean, I got the entire album here, so why the fuck not? I mean, it's a good song. Got some good messages in there. Alrighty then. I'll tell you, it's weird how the yin and the yang works in the universe. How for every good thing there really is a bad in the world. And you know what? I'm just going to ignore the bad that happened this week and really focus on the positive. So to start off the show, the Adorkable Anarchist World is brought to you by what soon will no longer be Privacy Shield. Still need to get the updates from them about what their new project is going to be called, but it's really friggin' cool to see that we have these sort of things in the market that really bring power back to us, the buyer. You know what I mean? That allows us to block certain companies from really sending out our private information to other companies. So there'll be more from that to come, definitely. But we are also brought to you by my own little company, Distance Arts. If you think that freaking thing in back of me is awesome, just hit me up. Like, I got tons of spray paint here. I can go get some canvas. I'm willing to do custom shit. Hell, I can make shit that will... You put it under a black light and it'll glow in the dark. Imagine coming back to your dorm room, tripping your balls off, looking up one night with a black light on and seeing that. Now that would look fucking amazing. That's not a black light one, but I got black light ones around here. And just trust me, like seriously, help a guy out. Like that. This art that I sell is what pretty much keeps this show afloat, at least until November 14th, which I'm about to get to. Our next sponsor. We are now brought to you by the Pontiac Tribune, which I will start writing for November 14th, after founders Aaron Nelsons and Helena Kirby go on Breaking the Set with Abby Martin on RT. So I will begin writing on there, and if you follow the Voluntary Virtues Facebook page or my personal Facebook page, The Adorkable Anarchist World, you will definitely see a lot more of that to come. Some interesting articles written up of things that maybe I wasn't able to talk about on here, so... I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to really write for the Tribune like that. So, and plus I'll get paid for it too. So that'll be able to pump some more money back into this show and whatnot, which will be very nice. But anyways, the Adorkable Anarchist World has a pretty interesting topic today. And, you know, it's kind of a weird story how I came across this topic. I'm not very familiar with the guy who was first really the one who pushed this topic, and a lot of the libertarians I talked to really say that he was the one who really brought libertarianism, brought the idea of natural rights forward, and really was a root of what eventually led to the libertarian ideas. And, you know, it was weird. I was reading much more on Epicurus because I took this test online. And it ended up telling me that I was close. It was which philosopher you're most like, and I was surprised to find that it said I was most like Epicurus. And the more I went through his works, the more and more I found I related. And I eventually hope to read through his works and come and talk more about them here. But while talking with people about Epicurus and his works, I discovered Mark Tullius Cicero, which, if you're not familiar, Cicero was a Roman philosopher, but he was really the first one to come up with the idea of natural law. And just because you're an anarchist does not mean you can't believe in natural law, because natural law, of course, exists within nature. There's no natural ruler or hierarchy looking above it. Now then, in researching for this episode, I did find that there are some people out there who think that natural law could only exist if there's a God. And you know what? I really beg to differ on that. Just because you believe in natural law doesn't mean you have to believe in a sort of deity or a god. I mean, it really, if anything, the only thing you need to recognize to believe in natural law is the rational self-interest that men have to live next to one another. Because to an extent, we are somewhat social creatures. But the thing with natural law is it's just based off of eternal truths that exist within humanity. And it's belligerent. There's no other way around it. And, you know, it's these common ethical standards that we learn about under natural law that attempt to promote peace and tranquility among men. And, you know, that's really what I think that we try to achieve through nature, is to live among one another. Because really, the market is totally useless if there's no social interaction in it whatsoever. And one way that natural law exists within anarchy is it is something that exists above ethical self-rule, as I have sort of dubbed it. And I'm sure someone else has taken that and used it once before, but this is just something personal I had come to when reading through these various types of things about natural law. And I'll tell you, I was trying to think of what is the root of the ethical self-rule. What is the root of that? And, you know, the only way that I can come to this conclusion is ethical, how should I say this? Ethical self-rule is really rooted in the non-aggression principle. And to a way, and sadly, it seems like in the last few years, the NAP has become sort of something to be twisted into something it's not, for people on both sides of the equation. I mean, I see these people who are trying to use the NAP to justify violence that benefits themselves, but maybe to the other person, you'd then be violating the NAP as well. However, I've also seen people on what I guess you could refer to as the left kind of taking the NAP and making it into something it's not as well. But I think that both of these sides, they twist into something it's not, and because of that, they end up ignoring what the core idea of the non-aggression principle really is. And I think that is something very sad. So how about we look at the core idea that exists within the non-aggression principle? Because the thing is, this core idea that exists within the NAP is natural law. It is as basic as it gets. And this core idea is basically that the use of force is immoral, and unethical. The only time force can really be justified by the individual, or even by some individuals that I guess you could call a group, could be in the sense that it is being used for self-defense, whether it be in defense of oneself, one's property, or in the loved ones around them. That is the only time force is really ethically or morally justified. But even then, this doesn't account for some of the more complex questions that arise within ethics. And this is a common criticism I seem to get from some of the more people who really hang out on the ethical side of philosophy. And it seems like they act as though the non-aggression principle is supposed to cover everything that ethics is supposed to be about. And I think that's a problem, because the NAP isn't the end-all solution. It's the beginning of the question, the beginning of the answer to the question. As I said before, it is only the root of this plant. Once you start going out more, you come with much more harder ethical questions that honestly the NAP could not answer. But then again, these questions that ethics puts forward land in such gray zones that it is very hard to really look at it in a solution such as that one. And that is where I believe these sort of alternatives of the market come into play. Because the market provides other options that normally you would never think of. And to go back onto my subject before about natural law, so the non-aggression principle is really the root idea that exists within natural law. And what makes natural law different than our government law right now? Well, the thing with the state's laws is they're not really laws as much as they are statutes. And this was something that I had read from Cicero that really kind of stuck with me, because natural law covers the basic common sense things that promote how we really live in peace and tranquility with one another. As long as man has the need and the desire to live one next to one another, they will find a way. That is just simply natural law. Now, what would be an example of the state having, well, a statute? Well, let's take the laws of marijuana prohibition for a second. Trying to control people's human actions and trying to wipe a plant out of existence, it's pretty unnatural. It's not something that can be done through nature, and is pretty impossible if you really want to look at it in that light. So what you find is it is not a law that is naturally bind to humanity. It is simply a statute made up of those who have their own goals that have decided to subject the rest of the world to it. So what we find is that there are certain aspects of laws that do exist within nature because they promote this sort of, I need to find a word for this, but they promote this sort of peace among everyone. But these statutes don't promote that at all. They simply promote more chaos that benefits a small group of people while shunning the rest of the population. I mean, has the drug war really benefited the greater good of man? Another thing you should ask is, has the drug war actually, if there was no government, would the drug war exist within nature? No, it would not. And the drug war isn't the only statute of the state that you can find that holds like this too. There are plenty of other that I could go through, but I'm just using this because this is the most bare bone example, and this is the one that I feel like has done the best job really talking to people about natural law. Now, I might have missed a few things on this, and if you really have anything more to say, just go contact me on Facebook, or just go to my Facebook page and go talk to me about it, because I'd like to get more into this and really delve deeper into this idea. And there probably is a hell of a lot more for me to learn. I've probably just only scraped the surface, seeing that I haven't even delved into the works of Cicero at all. I've just sort of looked at the basic overview of his ideas. So if you have anything else to add, feel free to go on my Facebook page and add it. But for the second part of the show today, if you've been watching in the past, you know that I like to talk about secession. I find it as a very, very fascinating subject, especially to how those who are against secession can't even really grasp the idea of what is going on. It's almost as though they're just working as automatons for the collective, which, if you watch my Gustave Le Bon review of The Crowd, you know that that's exactly what is happening. But something interesting I came across while looking into this the other day was this map that someone drew of the world if we had counted a certain amount of secessions. Like, when I look at the world, there's this. I'll probably end up posting this on the Facebook page, but there's some inaccuracies on here. This might be a little bit behind, but for instance, northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, if you know about that situation at all, the UP has attempted to secede before and become its own state, Superior, but unfortunately did not pass. Also, the 6 states that California was might split up into, that's not on here either. But it still counts a great amount of the world and covers a lot of movements that I frankly never even knew about. And I'll be honest, if we were to look into a lot of them, we'd probably find, wow, these are a lot of statist nut jobs who we probably don't want to associate with. But For the sake of what I want to talk about, I'm just going to point to the Middle East, since this seems to be where everything is always seems to be going on in the world. And it's amazing how our borders that we had drawn after World War II in the Middle East really don't hold any relevance to how the greater geographical area, geopolitical area actually is. And I'm going to look at Yemen most specifically, because right now this is a very fascinating one that seems to be downplayed a lot in the news. But then again, Yemen is our ally, so nothing bad could ever go on in Yemen. But what we have here is in the north you have one somewhat nationalist movement, and then you have in the south the central government. Then in this other area you have Aden, and then you have, I probably just pronounced that totally wrong. My Arabic friend will probably correct me. And then you have Al-Qaeda. But for some reason, we still look at this as one big country of Yemen. And I think that's a problem, because when a country is in a deep civil war like this, it's highly unlikely that the borders will end up the same in the end, and that one group will find themselves in total control of Yemen. And even more so, if you wanted to look at the borders of Iraq, Turkey, Syria, and Iran, you then have Kurdistan, which in a way has already become its own somewhat autonomous country. It just hasn't been recognized on the greater geopolitical arena, which I find to be very strange, because it seems the country itself seems to have support, and it has the land too. That's the thing. If a country is able, and I sound like such a statist saying this, if a country has won over the culture of a population and has a certain degree of autonomy, it's already its own state. Just the greater state does not want to recognize that. Another example of this, not in the Middle East, you would see would be like Catalonia, Spain. I mean, it's almost nearly autonomous, and yet it's still considered a part of Spain. However, you go there, the culture is totally different. They speak a totally different language. Their entire government system is almost completely autonomous. I mean, what is the only thing holding it back from becoming its own country, aside from another greater country saying, oh, this belongs to us? Because if you really want to look at it in the greater scale of things, it already is its own autonomous country. It already holds its own autonomy. And I don't understand why states are always so quick to oppress people like this. Because, this just like hit me right now, what this really is. It goes back to that old, I can't believe I'm about to say this, especially after putting out a video criticizing the guy, but it goes back to that Stefan Molyneux idea on human farming. They don't want to lose the cattle to another farm, let alone some farm that they have attempted to bring up on their own, which of course will eventually end up with another farmer at the top herding all the sheep. But they don't want to lose those sheep to another farmer is what it comes down to. And that's really the sad point that I see in a lot of these secessionist movements. It's like they break out of a cage just to find themselves in fleeing to another cage. There's almost never been any that don't just go straight to another cage. I mean, I suppose you have the anarchists of Catalonia is one example, but I don't really know if you can consider that the best example. For one, because there were a lot of anarcho-syndicals, but also because of some of the other atrocities that the leftists committed that were just as bad as the fascists. And, I've talked about this subject so many times that I really don't know what else there is to say, aside that if there is ever a revolution that you can play a part in, or some sort of secession thing, don't just be a keyboard commando behind your keyboard typing things, telling the world about it. Be out there telling people that, listen, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking the question of who should replace this ruler who we can't stand anymore. But really, you should be asking, why did we ever need these rulers at all? Why did we ever really need, like, why are we even seceding if we're just going to put someone else in charge? Well, this looks like this one might end up being a little bit shorter than usual because I have some other things that I need to attend to outside of this podcast, setting up sponsors and whatnot with Privacy Shield. So what else can I what else can I say to really wrap this up? Well, for starters, definitely go check out the Pontiac Tribune. The new website should be up November 14th, and that's also the day that I start writing for them. But also go check out the Facebook page. Seriously, come on, help the Adorable Anarchists get some likes out there. Like, once I get some good money flowing in here, I might actually try and do some edited shows as opposed to this live crap. I actually want to try and make this into a work for myself. You know what I mean? I want to enjoy what I do. And no, stop the music. Stop the music. That's one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning. And in economics that I learned, there's sort of a risk-reward ratio with things. And one thing that when I first came onto this network, that that a lot of people would say is like, don't quit your day job. I mean, this is just something to do on the side. I mean, well, I said fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? I quit my day job and I tried to invest my all in this. I started painting again. Go check out Distance Arts if you want some awesome fucking trippy space art. But I started making art again. I started panhandling. I started writing articles. And I continued going to school without having consistent money coming in. I mean, I was just basically scraping the bottom of the barrel for whatever I could. And you know what? To get this offer to work at the Pontiac Tribune, it's like, it really paid off. Because that's the thing. It goes back to that Alan Watts quote of what you want to do in life. If you spend enough time doing something, you can attain the skills to make it in that industry and make it into a living. And I do firmly believe this, especially after these last few weeks. So I'm really freaking excited to write for the Tribune, and it just goes to show you that you don't have to continue working a sort of wage slave job like the one I was. You can go out there and do what the fuck you want, and you can make it if you really put your all into it. Because, that's the thing. Like, making art like that, playing the guitar, it's just a skill. It's a skill you can attain and refine through practice. A lot of people act like, oh, you either got it or you don't. No, fuck no. Anyone can obtain it. It's really not as complex as so many as people think. So, yeah, just don't let the world hold you back. And totally check out the Pontiac Tribune, because it's going to be off the fucking hook when I start writing on there. And check out the creators of the Tribune on Abby Martin's show, November 14th. Oh man, there starts up the music again. But anyways, check out Distance Arts on Facebook. Seriously, buy some of this art. We need some help, at least until November 14th. But hey, I'll still contribute. I'll still be selling this art after then. If you want anything custom made, always ask me about that. Throw some likes to the Adorable Anarchist World on Facebook. Stay tuned for more on Privacy Shield. That'll definitely get cooler, especially when you find out what it'll now be called, because the government patents are so inefficient they couldn't even keep up with a good thing telling us whether the patent was good or not. But yeah, I think that's just about everything. Well, this is Mitchell Wiechek of the Adorable Anarchist World, retaining the realism in the age of fascism.
Yeah.